This is the Treasure Island Baseball Network.
It's time to check in with your Minnesota Twins. Going inside the front office, the clubhouse, the minor leagues, the spotlight is on your team. Welcome to Inside Twins.
We welcome you to episode 5 of the off-season edition of Inside Twins, giving you an inside look at the Twins front office. Hello, everyone. I'm John Vitas inside our Target Field studios. Happy you all could join us today. And as most of you are plenty familiar with by now, a lot has changed since our last show and since we saw a lot of you at Twins Fest on January 24th. Last Friday, the team announced that Minnesota Twins team president Derek Falvey and the club mutually agreed to part ways. Over Derek's 9 seasons with the team, the Twins won 51% of their games and reached the postseason 4 times. The announcement definitely caught a lot of us by surprise, but just a couple of hours after the announcement, Twins executive chair Tom Pohlad and Derek Falvey addressed the media with a press conference on Zoom. And one of the key pieces of information shared during that press conference was that Twins executive vice president and general manager Jeremy Zoll would take over as the team's top baseball decision maker. And just 5 days after that change, we are excited to have Jeremy as the guest on our show today. Jeremy joins us from upstairs at Target Field. Jeremy, thanks for the time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John. Glad the purple jacket made a cameo there in the intro, and looking forward to chatting with you.
We may get a couple more glimpses of the purple jacket as the show goes along, as we roll in some of our video. But obviously last week was a big week of change in the Twins front office. I'm sure it was an emotional week for you. So take us through your thoughts and emotions as last week went along.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's well said. Obviously, anytime you have changes like this, it's, significant news. And, Derek was someone that took a chance on me with when I was joining the organization to be farm director way back heading into the 2018 season, and forever grateful for his trust in me and his leadership and the partnership that we built over time and in the variety of roles that I held. And I'm just really appreciated his mentorship and everything he's done, and want to carry forward everything that he's set up for me and us with our group and push ahead. But anytime you hear the news that ultimately came out, catches you a little bit off guard, and you got to get recentered, and first and foremost just care for Derek and want him to be in a good spot and a good headspace about everything. And he knows the impact that he had on the organization and has had, and that we're going to carry forward and continue to have for him and for us moving forward. So, with all that, I'm excited to push forward and grateful for the opportunity, and looking forward to partnering with Tom and continuing to navigate everything with our baseball ops group, who we all have, tremendous belief in.
And obviously during Derek Falvey's tenure, you were one of his, right-hand man, and got a front row seat to what he did over the last decade. And, he and Tom Pohlad on the Zoom last week really sung your praises and spoke about their unwavering confidence in you to lead the organization forward. As you've been promoted a couple times within the Twins organization, where do you feel like you've grown as your list of responsibilities have increased?
Yeah, great question. As someone, we spend a lot of time within the organization talking about investing in personal growth and development, professional growth and development. It's really core to who we are as an organization. And, we have individual development plans and staff development plans, things along those lines. So spend a lot of time thinking about that, trying to always find ways to improve, whether it's processes, whether it's, leadership skills and styles and all of those different things. And, I think in partnering with, along the way, Derek, Thad, Daniel, Alex Hassan, our other AGMs, Josh Kalk, Sean Johnson, and the list goes on, this, the way that everyone just brings different perspectives to solving problems, has been really valuable for me along the way. We do a lot of staff trainings with our sports psychology group, Premier Sports Psychology, and a lot of work with the DISC assessment, and just this appreciation for, how you show up with solving problems. What your mindset is from a pacing perspective, and how you interact with the team around you, and that awareness for individually how we show up, and understanding better how others show up has just been crucial for me to continue on my leadership journey, and doing everything I can to be the best leader I can to push us forward.
Yeah, and I would imagine what makes the transition even smoother is that you've been in the general manager's chair for the past year, and so you've had your hands on every aspect of the organization. And of course, one of the moves that was made at the beginning of the offseason was hiring Derek Shelton to be the manager of this Twins team in 2026. And of course, Derek Falvey was part of that process. Have you and Derek Shelton had a chance to sit down together and regroup a little bit in the wake of the news and talk about the best path forward?
Yeah, Shelty and I have been talking every day, along the way here, really nearly every day for the whole off season, just as we were, bringing him on board, getting him up to speed, um, you know, deepening our relationship. Obviously, we crossed paths within the organization back when Shelty was here as bench coach, but I was farm director, so it wasn't the most natural connection point, just with how busy we were in our individual roles, and have spent a lot of time this off season digging in and following Derek sharing the news with Shelty and, bringing him into loop on things. We've had a ton of conversations on everything. Shelty feels really good about the partnership that he and I have established and the relationship, how we're fostering all that and ready to push forward with our coaching staff, and the new faces there with our baseball ops group and the connection point with Tom. So that's all, we're ready to push forward. He's, looking forward to the opportunity. And I think, most importantly, as you noted at the top, pitchers and catchers, a week away here, and just looking forward to getting down to Fort Myers and getting rolling into the routine.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. Pitchers and catchers will be in Florida in a week from now, which is hard to fathom how quickly that can come sometimes. You've already named some names in your group of baseball decision makers, a lot of experienced baseball men who have been in different roles around the game, some with the Twins, some have had experience in other organizations. But when it comes to your core group or folks that you're going to immediately lean on when an opportunity comes on the table, whether it be with a player or a trade, who are some of the names that you'll be leaning on the most?
Yeah, I'll double back on some of them that I mentioned and add a couple others. But our AGM crew, Daniel Adler, Sean Johnson, Josh Kalk, Alex Hassan feel, really good about everything they bring to the table. Really diverse set of skill sets and areas of expertise. And Daniel's work on the R&D side and building up that group and leading the arbitration team among other areas that he's impacts within baseball ops on a day-to-day basis. Just a really good thought partner for me. Sean Johnson taking the lead on our amateur scouting efforts and his experience and leadership with his group. It's so grateful for how much he can just handle in that regard and take a lot of pressure off, the rest of us for knowing that he just has that area handled in a good spot. Josh Kalk leading in other areas of our R&D group and our advanced scouting team and helping on player personnel matters. So, he brings a ton of unique perspective and expertise as well. And then Alex Hassan, was my right-hand man when I started as farm director, and he was assistant farm director in player development and has ascended along the way, along with me. And, his experience as a player, just brings such a helpful perspective, how thoughtful he is, how he attacks his own growth and learning, and just wanting to do everything he can to improve our hitting programs and processes and impact player development, the major league areas. He's one of a kind in a lot of ways, and really grateful that he's been part of our group. So those are our four AGMs. Some other folks that help out a lot in so many areas, and I'm going to definitely miss names, but Kevin Goldstein overseeing our international efforts and helping within pro personnel, Brad Stile overseeing our pro personnel efforts, Nick Beecham, our director of baseball ops, Haley Leviton, our assistant director of baseball ops, Brian Maloney, director of minor league operations, and again, so many more. But just the core of folks that help on, whether it's transactions, rules, thought partners, idea generation, and Brad's team on the pro side. We just have so many people that are contributing, and we really do try to make it as collaborative of an effort and process as possible.
Yeah, so many diverse backgrounds and personalities in that group, and huge collaborative effort that I think a lot of folks don't really realize how much goes into the different processes of building a roster and developing an entire organization. Now, this time of year, when we have you on the show, we're normally talking, players and competition going into spring training, and obviously we had some other news to get to, but I think we're ready to move on. You want to talk some players in spring training?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. Well, you guys have had the chance to bring in some free agents this year. One of them being Victor Caratini, who joins Ryan Jeffers in the catcher group. Assuming Ryan's going to be the primary guy, where can Victor impact the position player core aside from just being Ryan Jeffers' backup?
Yeah, I think well said on how we envision the role and dividing that up. Victor brings experience and he's a switch hitter, so it just creates a left-handed option for us behind the plate to pair with Ryan. But it also his ability to play first base and find some DH at bats as well. It creates some really interesting rotation options for Shelty to navigate from a lineup perspective, and he brings a really good approach to the plate. His ability to control the strike zone, and he's been a pretty consistent hitter in his time. At all the stops that he's been at, that could allow RJ to pick up some DH at bats as well. It creates a lot of flexibility for us with this ad, and just think it really raises our floor and gives Shelty a ton of options.
No doubt, and a lot of experience with Victor Caratini too, with multiple major league clubs. Last year in your minor league group, it was a banner year for upper level outfielders. Virtually all of those guys put up huge numbers between Wichita and St. Paul. A lot of those guys, maybe all of them, will be in major league camp with the Twins. So what's your message to players like Trevor Larnach and Matt Wallner with so many younger outfielders entering the fold?
Yeah, great question. For Trevor and Maddie, they're in a great spot. They, I know Maddie has. He'll be the first to tell you he's had some bouts of inconsistency and some really hot streaks. I think Maddie, when he's hot, he's one of the hottest hitters in the game. And when he's when he hits some funks, that can take a minute for him to get out of. He's really committed to just ironing that out and getting to this level of consistency, because when he's hot, he's one of the toughest hitters in the middle of the order in the league, and just need to really stretch that out from a consistency perspective. So feel really good about where he's at. I know he's having a great offseason, and Trevor as well. From their perspective, they're gonna really help us in the lineup. They know that, and it's a good problem to have when you have young players that are progressing well and performing well, and trying to push the envelope. But Trevor and Maddie are in great spots, and also excited about the group, and they'll get a lot of good exposure in Major League Camp for a wide variety of reasons, WBC and otherwise, and getting ready for their seasons, and let them keep developing and growing.
And Twins fans may be familiar with a Walker Jenkins or even like an Alan Rodin or James Outman, who got opportunities after the trade deadline last year. But who are some of those other outfielders we may see in camp that maybe they're not as familiar with, that are starting to push their way up to the big league level?
Yeah, a handful, a couple on the 40-man, couple not. Gabby Gonzalez, Henry Mendez on the 40-man, Kyler Fedko, Kalai Rosario off the 40-man. Are some of the names. Gabby, we acquired, going back a few years in the Jorge Polanco trade, and he started this past season in High A and ascended all the way up to Triple A. Has a unique skill set in his ability to really mitigate strikeouts and also do significant damage in the box as a right-handed hitter. So really thrilled with how he's progressed, especially given how young he is, on a relative basis to his competition. Henry Mendez, we acquired at this past trade deadline in the Harrison Bader deal. Unbelievable zone control. His ability to take walks versus strikeouts is, some of the tops you'll see in the minor leagues, and really interesting bat profile. We're also going to get him some time at first base as we keep progressing here, and just try to add another tool to his tool belt. And then Kyler Fedko, was working, trying his darndest to get to a 30-30 season. Unbelievable campaign for him between AA and AAA. Kalai Rosario, similarly, over 20 homers and a bunch of steals as well. And they bring some right-handed power, and have developed nicely over the last few years. So they've shown up in some capacity in some games along the way down at Hammond in spring training in the past, but looking forward to them getting full exposure this camp.
Should be a lot of fun to watch all of those guys get a nice long look during spring training. I think this offseason, the one area that a lot of folks have asked a lot of questions about is the bullpen. It appears to be a unit where there could be multiple spots available and a lot of competition to try and claim those spots. Yesterday, the Twins claimed Jackson Kowar off of waivers from Seattle. You've also signed a handful of relievers to minor league deals that have major league experience. So for my question for you as the GM, as you're sifting through dozens and dozens of pitching options, what are some traits you're looking for when trying to pluck guys onto your spring training roster that could potentially impact the big league club?
Yeah, good question for sure. We're trying to, blend a few different things, whether it's previous performance, whether it's experience, how their stuff plays, their ability to generate swings and misses, create unique looks, and different looks that if we're trying to create as complementary of a bullpen as possible. So trying to figure out all those things, but then probably most importantly, and spend the most time talking on for a second here, is just this idea: do we see anything else that we can do with this player to help them unlock another step forward? And whether that's tweaking a grip to improve a pitch, adding a pitch to the mix, simplifying their pitch mix, an alteration of mechanics, whatever it may be. Those feel like often the biggest opportunities we can make, with guys that are falling into the buckets that you're talking about, because, at this point, everyone has, is working off a similar set of numbers, or whether it's public information, internal projections, their scouting group, whatever it may be. When you blend all that together, you're getting a lot of similar views. And we think our pitching development group is, one of the strongest in the league, and their ability to find abilities to have guys make tweaks and get those put into action quickly is really valuable. And that's definitely something we spend a lot of time on in the acquisition process as well. Yeah,
one small tweak for a talented pitcher can make a whole lot of difference. So it should be fun to watch those guys compete for spots in spring training. Last question on the bullpen. Of course, when you look at the Twins roster, I mean, I count 13 starting pitchers amongst the players on the 40-man roster. I'm sure there'll be discussion as to whether those guys might be helpful in the bullpen at some point. What's the timeline look like on potentially changing someone's role? Is it before spring training? Is it as you're watching spring training unfold?
Yeah, I think, there's definitely a number of names to choose from there. So there's definitely some component of this that's, case by case and individual. Some guys were starting to go through role changes towards the end of last year, whether that's, someone like Travis Adams or Marco Raya. So they might fall into a little bit of a different bucket than some of the other guys that, were staying on a starter routine, or were primarily on a starter routine for the entire season last year. And we want to use this time in the early going. There's kind of no harm in, ensuring we're building up as many guys as possible in the earliest of going. You never know how injuries might break in spring training. And it's always easier to shift someone from starter to reliever than vice versa. So, even though spring training is right around the corner, we do still feel like we have some time to make those calls, and, certainly want to make sure guys have time to acclimate to roles. But we also know that even if we do, have some guys convert from starter to reliever, that might not be an opening day thing, at least at the major league level, and they might get some time in AAA in certain cases. So, again, it's going to be a case by case discussion. Some of it also contingent on how the rest of, the roster building goes over this next stretch, and as we settle into camp. So, a lot to work through there, and we've already had some conversations internally about that, and that's going to, only continue over the next couple weeks here.
Right. So it never hurts to build guys up to 4 or 5 innings, and then you have more options as, the roster comes together at the end of spring training. And of course, Twins with plenty of success doing that in the past with guys like Duran and Jackson, Varland, and plenty of others on that list who have made that transition and had a lot of success. We're going to take our first break here on Inside Twins today, loosen things up a little bit in segment 2. We're going to test Jeremy's knowledge with some Cardack, and then of course answer your questions. So get them into the chat on whatever platform you may be watching on, and we will have Jeremy answer some fan questions at the end of the show as well. That's all coming up next here on your home for Twins baseball.
Twins fans, want flexibility and savings with your baseball experience? Check out My Twins membership. It's free to enroll, and any ticket or ballpark purchase earns you rewards. Become a My Twins member today at twins.com/mytwins.
John Vitas welcoming you back to Inside Twins. Twins general manager Jeremy Zoll is our guest this afternoon. We certainly appreciate him joining us live today. And it's time for Cardack. And Jay-Z, you started the Cardack tradition January of last year. That was right after your promotion to GM, and you went 3 for 3, and the tradition is still going strong. So we're going to continue that today with you, if that's okay.
Sounds good. I was very nervous last year. I'm definitely nervous again, but we'll give it our best go.
Well, we already let you know the 3 cards are different from last year, so no repeats. We're going to start with card number 1. So far this season on Inside Twins, we've always started with a current member of the Minnesota Twins, and this player holds the Queen Creek High School all-time record for RBIs with 77.
Gonna need some more help on that. I'm not super well versed on Queen Creek High School, if I'm being honest.
No worries. We're gonna roll through, and we have 4 or 5 different reveals we can do. All right. Clue number 2: Twins team best 193 ERA in the second half of the season last year. So very strong finish to the year for this pitcher.
All right. I think I'm getting an idea, but I'm gonna save my guess for at least one more clue here.
All right. We'll reveal the top of the baseball card there. He is a homegrown Twins prospect taken in the 15th round in 2018, which I believe is also when you joined the Twins organization, so a member of your first development class. I think you might know who it is.
I'm feeling good now. All right. Cody Funderburk. I was thinking that is a good deke on the RBI start there, and Cody's two-way stretch in college and all that, but I wasn't ready to quite jump the gun off his second half ERA, but we got there.
There you go. Cody Funderburk is correct. Arizona native. There you see the strong numbers last year, and of course that amazing finish the last 2 months of the season, and certainly figures to be a key member of that Twins bullpen in 2026. There you see Cody's card revealed by our crew, and we're going to go on to or let's ask you a question about Cody while we have a moment. I mean, the timing works out perfectly where he has been one of your players that you have developed and made decisions on throughout your entire Twins career. What adjustments has Cody made along the way to make himself into an excellent big league reliever?
Yeah, Cody's done an awesome job. He went through, a couple bouts in the minor leagues where, he it felt like he was catching momentum and about to take another big step forward and, get a little bit stuck. And, he was caught kind of in between. Is he a starter? Is he a reliever? Worked hard to navigate his pitch mix, and eventually we were just able to lean into some of the unique things he does well with the way his mix works and lean into that harder. And Cody is just someone that continues to just continue to work his butt off and wants to do everything he can to put himself in the best spot for success. Going back a couple years, we had to send him back to Double-A early. He absolutely dominated that and forced us to move him to Triple-A, where he felt like he belonged all along, and hit the ground running from there, and just continues to go about his business the right way. Great teammate, and I'm glad he's part of our organization.
Yeah, always someone we enjoy talking to in that Twins clubhouse. Cody Funderburk, big part of the 2026 Twins. All right, let's go on to card number 2. I will preface this by saying this may or may not be a major leaguer right now. He won Sun Belt Player of the Year in his final year of college.
I'm not super well versed on the Sun Belt, if anyone can believe that. So I'm going to definitely need more help there.
All right. Clue number 2. He won a Rawlings minor league gold glove in 2025.
Rawlings minor league gold glove in 2025. All right. Still need some help.
Let's go to the next one. He is a Cedar Rapids Colonel. At least he was at the end of 2025. And the number that may jump out to you there is 66 stolen bases last season.
All right. I think we are going with Kyle DeBarge.
Kyle DeBarge is correct. Louisiana native, late first-round pick for the Twins a couple years ago. Had an awesome debut with the Colonels, or I should say first full season in the minor leagues with Cedar Rapids last year. He's obviously a great defender and a guy that can play multiple spots, but the running was what stood out with him. You mentioned earlier that Cleti Rosario stole a lot of bases. He's a big bruising power hitter. So it seemed like an organizational approach for just about everyone to at least attempt to steal bases last year. What was the thinking there? And is that something that you think will continue across the organization?
Yeah, two points there. One, when you said not a major leaguer, originally I was thinking someone not currently in our org, so that threw me off for a second. But I got back on the scent there, and Debo. I mean, first of all, I want to talk about unbelievable job by our amateur scouting group on this one because they, when you look at Kyle's, college stolen base totals, they're quite low, and our scouting group was very adamant that he had a really good run tool, and that the school he was at just was not aggressive on the bases, and that if we let him do his thing, he was going to steal a lot of bases. I don't think anyone quite thought this many, but great job by our amateur scouting group identifying that. And yeah, I mean, especially in the minor leagues, we want to do everything we can to allow guys to be as aggressive as possible, understand what their limitations are, and take advantage of the opportunities. That's the only way you know how to throttle it back if you really push the boundaries there. So that's something we're definitely trying to capitalize on. And for fans that were dialed in the last 6 weeks of the season, you saw that at the major league level as well. And those are all things we want to keep building upon in 2026 as we push forward here.
Yeah, minor league's always about learning, and if you attempt more than 70 steals in a season, you're certainly learning when to steal and when not to steal. And yeah, Kyle's a top 30 prospect in the Twin system, not necessarily in the top 10, but a good example of the depth that the organization has been able to put together, especially on the position player side, kind of in the middle of the system. A lot of good, versatile guys like Kyle. Let's head to the last card of the day. This is a pitcher who was with the Yankees for his brief major league career in 2021. Just 5 innings pitched from Huntington, New York. 6'8" guy.
Huntington, New York, 6'8". Oh,
Right-hander.
I think I got it. Let's see. What round does that say? It's a little small for me here.
Round.
I think we're going Steven Ridings here. I'm going to give that a shot early.
That's a pretty good get right there. Steven Ridings is correct. Currently the pitching coach for the Wichita Wind Surge, which of course is the AA affiliate of the Twins, one of 2 individuals to attend Haverford College and play in the majors, which of course is your alma mater. You were an excellent player for Haverford, and I would imagine you've developed a relationship with Steven over the years, having gone to the same school and now working in the same organization.
Yeah, really excited to bring Steven in. He's someone that dominated in college, and probably should have found some kids to pick on that were his own size, but absolutely dominated, earned the opportunity to go to pro ball. And he'll be the first to tell you he battled various injuries along the way, and I know that was really frustrating for him, but he worked to overcome those and to get all the way to the big leagues. Just really special. And I know how proud Coach Beccaria is, the Haverford contingent, and excited to, as he makes this leap to the other side, to the coaching side, his ability to impact our current pitchers in the minor leagues. Really excited to have that with Steven here.
Yeah, so he'll be in Wichita with the Wind Surge, tutoring those young arms this season. That was fun. 3 for 3 again, 6 for 6 in your career.
All right, we'll have to get the leaderboard going down there in the studio and see if anyone can surpass.
I think you're the leader as of now. That was well done. Jeremy, we appreciate it. We're going to have one more segment here on Inside Twins. Come on back with some fan questions. So just a couple more minutes to get your questions into the chat, and I will kick it off with one for Jeremy Zoll when we come back here on your home for Twins baseball.
Twins fans, want flexibility and savings with your baseball experience? Check out My Twins membership. It's free to enroll, and any ticket or ballpark purchase earns you rewards. Become a My Twins member today at twins.com/mytwins.
We are live here inside Target Field. John Vitas here on Inside Twins with Twins GM Jeremy Zoll. And we mentioned that Jeremy was on the show last year with Mark Janowski. And one of the things you mentioned that I wanted to follow up on was that the Moneyball was an inspiration for you growing up, and it kind of sparked your interest to work in a baseball front office. I assume you meant the book, not the movie, but what about that book made you think about the game differently and kind of develop that passion?
Yes, I did mean the book going back. I enjoy the movie also, but I think I don't think that lines up exactly from a year's perspective. Book for sure. I think just this idea of, problem solving, attacking things with unique perspectives, differently, seeing the success that happened within that organization and the revolution it created within the industry, was all really exciting, inspiring, and just something where you're like, man, I would love to have a chance to be a part of some version of that along the way. And, grateful that has all be able to come to fruition here.
How similar are you to the Brad Pitt version of the A's GM?
I should be so lucky that Brad Pitt would play me in a movie. So I don't know. We'll let the fans come up with who my actor would be along the way.
Well, that's a perfect segue because it's fan question time here on Inside Twins. Our crew's been sifting through all the questions, and we are going to get going here with Patrick. Jeremy, you were a catcher in college. What about your job is most similar to being a catcher?
Yeah. I mean, along the way, I've actually had the chance to help with our catching development programs and things along those lines. But in my current role, I think there's just a leadership element that comes with being a catcher, and you're managing the pitching staff and all different personalities and leading the group, and everyone's looking at you, on the field to set the tone, and took pride in that in my playing career, and take pride in leadership ability and developing leadership ability, honing those skills in my current role. So that's where my head goes there.
All right, let's get to our next question. Looks like we've got a few different options here. We're going to go to Facebook here with David. What are your thoughts on Toby G? I assume he means Toby Gardenhire, who of course was the Saints manager at the AAA level and now joins the Major League staff this year.
Yeah, Toby's the man. So pumped for him that he's making the leap. He's really grinded it out over the last number of years in the minor leagues. And when I joined the organization as farm director, Toby was shifting into a minor league manager role, and he just has done such a phenomenal job building strong cultures in the minor leagues, building deep relationships, taking organizational initiatives and making them his own. And whatever we ask for, he works hard to deliver. He's collaborative, pushes his own ideas, and just has really great insights. Given how long he's been around the game, he'll tell you about it when he was a bat boy way back in the day at the Metrodome and all that. So really appreciate his feel for the game, his ability to build those connections, and I think he's going to be an awesome fit on Shelty's staff here.
Yeah, and of course, a deep knowledge of the Twins organization and the prospects that have come through in recent years, which a lot of those guys now, of course, on the Twins roster, and I'm sure he'll help some of the newer coaches that you've added to the staff this year under Derek Shelton, who are new to the organization. So a nice mix of folks familiar with the Twins and, of course, some new coaches as well. It sounds like we have time for one more question. So Wyatt wants to know, what was Jeremy's first thing he did as the GM? So I think we're going back about a year here, right?
Yeah. So last year, good question. I'm not sure I can perfectly put a finger on that. Where my head goes is going out to dinner with my wife to celebrate. I think we went to Boucheron in Minneapolis, which is awesome, and a good celebratory meal. So that's where my head's going. I mean, we had an all staff meeting to share the news and lots of connections, but I don't know if I have a perfect memory of first act as GM, but definitely enjoying the time with my wife, and she deserves plenty of credit too for all she sacrifices to make all this work.
No doubt about it. Well said. Well said. Well, Jeremy, thank you for joining us today. Lots of great insight, and I'm sure you're excited to get down to Fort Myers. I'd imagine you're heading down pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Flying down on Monday. First kind of big staff kickoff meetings on Tuesday, and the week kind of gets rolling from there with physicals and pitchers and catchers and full squad the week after. So really excited to get down there, get to the warm weather, and get things rolling.
We're down to days, no longer weeks, counting down to spring training. Well, Jeremy Zoll, thanks again for the time, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Great stuff there from the Twins GM. We appreciate all of you tuning in today on Inside Twins as well. Pitchers and catchers reporting a week from today. That'll also likely be the day of our next show. Gino will be back for that next week, and then one more episode heading into the first spring training game of the season. It'll be the Golden Gophers at Hammond Stadium against the Twins to kick off spring training in 2026. Once again, thanks to Jeremy Zoll for spending some of his valuable time with us, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm John Vitas. Enjoy the rest of your day. And this is your home for Twins baseball.